all on
like
Apple
a miracle.
Play.
That's
No,
a
they
miracle.
get double
on Apple
screens in the
CarPlay.
car.
Apple CarPlay. Huh? Wow, how neat is that?
Very good. Well,
Thought it
I
wouldn't
think
let you zoom, but that's okay. I'm
I
zooming,
think you need
zooming
to
and
tell. I
navigating.
think you need to tell the world that. Hey, what do you think? I think Kenny, cue the
It's
band.
Zoomin' Newman telling us that we're on the air.
Zoom and Newman. I'm gonna mute, guys. We'll see you in a second here.
Now we're not. We
Thanks,
will
Sean.
be in a second. I think now we're on. There we go.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're on the air.
Hey, welcome everybody to the SoundBroker Mastermind group. Happy Thanksgiving. Before I go any further, let me just wish. 1 second. I don't know why I can't get this right. I've been doing it how many weeks now? This is our 27th week of doing this. 27 weeks. And thank you all for those who have come every week, and for those of you who just come in and listen to it on Facebook or YouTube. You know, you're more than welcome to come in on the Zoom meeting. All you got to do is sign up, pre-register, and we're expecting some more people even to come into the room this time around. So it's really cool. It's going to be a great pre-holiday meeting. So I want to thank you all
Look
for
at
coming.
Jan.
And for being here. So basically, I've told you about that. You know, you can come. What I'd really like you to do is share it with your friends, per usual. Click the like buttons. Do whatever. We stream every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Coast time here, and we go live on Zoom, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube. And so I also want to say this, that yes, last week and the week before and the week before, people have said things about other people that may or may not be true, including myself. You know, somebody called me handsome. I don't know who it is, but whatever it is, I want to say that every opinion, everything that's said is an opinion, and it's that opinion of the person who says it and myself. So whatever they say, I agree. Or if I don't agree, I'll let you know that I don't agree. And with that, hello everybody in the room. What's going on? I'm hoping that Michael Strickland comes in today. It's possible that he will. He said that unless a senator or a congressman, I don't even think a congressman, I think it was just a senator, and that would basically be the only reason why he wouldn't pop in. So there's a possibility that he will come in with an update. If not, I've got emails from him to share that I just got. If you might remember, and one of the things that I will also say is that Michael is doing something with Level Up. And if he comes in, he'll talk about it. But basically, we're going to put the link in the show notes here. And basically, the Level Up Festival has it's a call to action to highlight why those who work in the live industry matter. And so the idea is you'll post things up to your own social media with the image of a grateful crew, and there'll be more information on that, and in the show notes, and where what can I tell you? That's it. These are these are the public service announcements that I'm making. Okay,
This
so
is
how
kind of
is
like the
everybody
monologue.
doing? How's
It's the
everybody's
monologue.
week? Kenny, how's your week been?
Oh, man, my week has been good. Just like getting stuff done for people and doing things and making progress.
Well, that's good.
But getting frustrated by those news reports about the restaurants. They're like, oh, these poor restaurant owners, they're only able to serve outside and only during the day. I'm like, yo, that's like 50% more than event people could do.
Yeah. It makes you. It doesn't make you really want to become a waiter, does it? You know.
Oh, absolutely not. But I mean, don't get me wrong; they have it pretty bad. But the news media is not bringing any attention at all to the entire event industry, which is pretty massive in this country, and they're just kind of sidelining it, probably because they equate events with entertainment, with leisure time activities, as opposed to eating, which is a necessary thing to do. So I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I think that I would agree with Manilow when he says he writes the songs that make the whole world sing. And in reality, right now, we make the production that makes it possible for him to be heard by the world singing. And I think that's important. I think that's just, I mean, today I got a call from somebody who was supposed to come in, but he had to take his father to the hospital. I don't know about you guys, but I am hearing more and more about personal people that I know that are coming down with COVID here in Las Vegas. I think the rate now is 16%. Is that right, Mike Brown? 16%. People who are blind cannot see what you're saying right now. The ADP, and we've got Brian Scott in the room
And
right now.
there's let's everybody all rise. Michael Strickland is in the room. All rise.
Hey, Michael's in the
The
room.
Honorable Michael Strickland. Thank you for
Hey,
joining us,
everybody.
Michael.
I was just talking about your Level Up program, and I was saying that when you came in, I got 3 emails from you that I was going to read, but fortunately, you're in the room now, so I don't have to read them. So that's
Jan,
really cool.
is that the Byron Scott that played for the Lakers?
No ball. So, Michael, how are you?
Absolutely wonderful. How about all of you gentlemen?
We're hanging in.
You look good. There is a rumor that you're going to be running for office now, so I guess you're wearing the right clothes.
No, not at all. To bring you all up to speed, I sent out an email. I don't know if you've read it or not, but not the first one was the Level Up thing, and the second one was sort of a recap of where we are since Thursday. Several senators and representatives have been reaching out to me. There's been some kind of a weird shift, and I've gotten connected to some new senators that I wasn't talking to before. And the odd thing, since Thursday, there's been a shift in that I've got senators that have said, okay, we'll push and support restart, but here's what I need from you. I need you to get a Democratic senator if they're a Republican, or a Republican senator if they're Democrat, to vote for such and such a bill. So I now find myself in the middle of brokering votes. And just like they do, I think we all know that they do that. They get together and say, I'll support your bill if you'll support my bill. But
It's got to be a way of life for them, right? Yeah.
3 different senators told me they'll support restart if I can get an opposite vote on a bill. So that's an odd situation to be in. But holistically, there's since Friday morning, there seems to be a renewed interest in a holistic fix. I think they've all gotten to the point that they realize that the carve-outs and the focused fixes don't sell, and they've also gotten the votes that they needed to, the election's over. So now they're kind of pivoting back to a holistic fix, which for us is positive. The truth of the matter is that I think the best thing we can hope to achieve between now and the end of the year is another round of PPP and PUA as well. I think the bigger fix of a restart style program will occur January, February. You're going to get some new documents next week from me. I have got a 1-page sheet to send to you to use to all of your legislators that really puts it all in 1 page of where we are and what we need. It's an overview. The appetite for them to make small business whole is there. They understand, the ones that I speak directly to, that the live event business is the only business 100% captive. And I feel better than I have in about 5 weeks with them coming toward me. But again, I think getting PPP and PUA between now and Christmas is really all we can help for. Now, having said that, when you get these documents on Monday and some other things on Monday, we're not going to give up, because we've got to keep pressing the restart asks, because we want to keep the restart on the forefront of their mind. And let me remind you, they only deal with the legislation in front of them, and that's Heroes, Heroes 2, Heals, Heals 2, and Restart. And buried in Heroes 2 is Save Our Stages and the restaurant bill. So those are the things that they're dealing with, and they just are kind of mix and matching. So, theoretically, they're going to come up with some combination of these things and move forward. Same as it ever was. Leadership seems to be the issue. Both sides do or don't want the win to be on the other party's side of the table. And, it bumfuzzles me that we can't just carve out at least PPP, enhanced unemployment, and the stimulus check now, and then let them war over everything else later. But for whatever reason, that's proving to be difficult. Now, a number of people have told me the continuing resolution to keep the government funded has to be done by the 11th of December. A number of people have told me that what probably will happen is when they vote on the 11th, they'll also vote on some form of relief. You know, and I'm staying out of the conversations about other things, healthcare, schools, all that. You know, my prayer is that they do narrow it down to PPP and enhanced unemployment, and perhaps the stimulus check, because those are three things that they do all agree on. And you know, that's kind of my prayer, is that they separate that and get it run through with the continuing resolution. I've had a lot of conversation now for 2 weeks about repurposing the $597 billion that's still stuck in the failed Main Street lending. And there's been a lot of motion toward, yeah, we could use that for small business. And bear in mind, there is still 134 billion stuck in PPP. So you've got 134 billion plus nearly 600. So you've got $795 billion that's already been appropriated. It's already sitting there. So it's not new funding. My prayer to them, and this is what you will get Monday, is that they take 300 billion of the 6 and slide that over for small business plus the 155 PPP. And again, this isn't just focused to live events, because you do have failing restaurants. You do that industry is not failing as a whole, because many of us know the people that have mastered takeout and delivery and all that are killing it. You know, Chick-fil-A is killing it. You know, there are sectors that are doing extraordinarily well, but there are failing restaurants, there are failing gyms, there are failing hair salons, but unlike us, they haven't been shuttered for 9 months. You know, they've been on and off and on and off. The next big step, and it's what I've been working on, and you've heard me talk about it, is getting Bennett and Young to change the loss income trigger to 50% or greater, and to change the size of the firm from 5,000 to 500. They've agreed unofficially to do that. I'm now trying to bring pressure upon them from other senators and other representatives to do that. And I'm going to work between now and the end of the year to get them to do that, because I've already got people like Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania and Joe Manchin from West Virginia and others who are not sponsors, but they told me, if you get those numbers changed, I'm on board. So that's the, you know, the behind the scenes thing. And that's one of the things that you're going to be asked to go to your legislators and urge them to urge Young and Bennett to change those thresholds. And again, because I know everybody on here is just as tired as can be of emailing and doing whatever it is you're doing, I'm going to remind you, every day their staff member gives them a spreadsheet. And it's how many people called about global warming, and how many people called about Save the Whales, and how many people called about the price of tea in China. We want to be on the top of that list. And you get to the top of that list by the number of people that reach out. So while it seems stupid and repetitive, and while you think I'm sending the same email over and over and over, if they get a spreadsheet that says 500 people emailed us today about the Restart Act, it moves to the top of the list, because they're creatures of habit, and keeping their constituents happy is the number one thing. And in this moment, there is no point in everybody emailing everybody, because their software tells them whether it's from their constituency or not. So their software tells them we had, 500 constituents concerned about Restart. So on this play, it will be vital that you stick within your senators and or your representatives so that the data set is meaningful. And again, this is going to require constant emails to them. And I'm trying to work with NAM to get it set up so you can go do that single click thing, and just go in every day and do the single click thing, and it'll send it through every day. So that's where it is on the vaccine front. If you read my last email, last two, the CDC and the FDA are going to approve both the Moderna and the Pfizer solution on either the 9th or the 10th. They both asked last week. I just got off of another call. People are confused. The vaccines are already distributed. University of Tennessee was involved with Federal Express and DHL and UPS. The vaccines are already distributed. They're all across America. There's roughly 100 million doses scattered around America. So the vaccines can be given starting, it's either the 9th or the 10th. I'm unclear which date they're going to do it. But here's the good news. Starting Monday morning, the most at risk being the frontline healthcare workers will be getting shots across America if they sign a release. And how do I know that? Because Monday morning at the University of Tennessee Medical Center, we begin inoculating our staff. And our staff are all signing releases, and we anticipate by next Friday having our entire staff at the hospital inoculated. And that's going on in other hospitals across America. So it's not just here, but I am on the inside of that process. And again, these are things you're not going to see in the media or in the news because you're just not. But after the 9th, they're going to focus on frontline workers and most at risk, being the elderly and the people with comorbidities and people in nursing homes. You know who the set is. And they anticipate that will drag all the way through December and most of January. And they still anticipate end of January, they'll be moving into the general population. And again, I sent you that state of Tennessee plan. They all follow that same line, that they go after the most at risk within the general population, which are older people. And obviously the least at risk are the younger, healthy people. But, and then again, as I put out before, the CDC and the WHO and 2 or 3 other National Health Institute, they all believe that we will reach 70% herd immunity by mid-May. And the gold standard for herd immunity is 50 to 60%. So if we get to 70% by mid-May, we're there for all practical purposes. Now, having said that, no one will go out on a limb medically and say that there won't be social distancing and there won't be masks. No one will say that yet. And I think it's because they want to get to that point where we have enough people inoculated and see what that actually, poke the bear, see what it looks like. And for this first inoculation you're going to receive Monday at the hospital, 28 days later, they have to receive the second one, because both Pfizer and Moderna are 2-shot vaccines, whereas the AstraZeneca and the J&J are 1-shots. And as I shared with you before, the Pfizer has to be kept at 94 degrees below zero. So that becomes pretty much an institutional solution. You can send it to hospitals and health clinics and people that can store at negative 94. And then the Moderna and the AstraZeneca and the J&J will be the ones scattered to Walgreens and CVS and Walmart and those kind of people. But it is here, and we have all 4 vaccines at UT Medical Center. People asked in the earlier call, well, are they getting shots now? That's how you do a clinical trial. You give people shots. So we've been doing it. I know a bunch of people in the clinical trial here, and I can tell you as a friend, every one of them is fine. I mean, nobody's sick. Nobody had a reaction. They're all now known immune. It's been just absolutely phenomenal. And, I have great faith in it. So I think we're in a good spot. And, as we move forward next week, you're going to get, say, a couple of things from me. And it's important that we keep hammering our legislators and move to the top of their call sheet so that they do indeed continue to work toward making Restart the holistic small business solution. And again, if you remember, we've got to narrow it to 50% loss of income or better and 500 or less people, which really pisses off the restaurant folks. But the thing is, if you're a restaurant that fits that category, and there are restaurants that fit that, you need it. If you're a restaurant that's down 25%, it's just a bad year. And that's probably the conversation I have more with politicians than anything else, because they can relate to a restaurant. They can't relate to sound and light people. And they go, well, my restaurant's down 30%. And I say, Bob, that's a bad day, isn't it? Well, yeah. So anyway, we push on, and that's kind of where it sits. Does anybody got any questions?
Well, I'll start out with now. There are four vaccines that are two of them are ready to go. Is it interchangeable from? It doesn't matter which one they are because they're all the same. But you can't go. In other words, it's going to either be Moderna, Johnson and Johnson. But is there one better than the other, or do you think the AstraZeneca one is going to be the one because they could store it at room temperature?
They're all greater than 90% efficacy. Truthfully, they're probably higher than that, but that question's been asked 1,000 times, and nobody really seems to know. That they do all have, they are all touting undercover that they should last a year, and that is what a flu shot lasts. And for those people that want to know absolutely positively 100% that I'll take this shot and we're going to wipe out COVID-19. Mankind's wiped out smallpox. That's it. It's the only virus we haven't really. I mean, it's still around in trace levels, but we haven't wiped out the flu or the bird flu or swine flu or the Asian flu or any of those other. They're out there. So to have an expectation that we're going to totally obliterate and get rid of COVID-19 is just not the case. And there's two reasons that they were able to do this vaccine at warp speed. I don't think I've shared this. SARS was at, the SARS outbreak 4, 5, 6 years ago. It also is a coronavirus. They're both, a coronavirus is a thing that looks like that ball with the pokey outy things, looks like a World War II landmine. There's 10,000 coronaviruses. There's a huge number. The coronaviruses, all of them are what you call orphan diseases, and orphan diseases have orphan drugs or don't. And it's just like there's other afflictions that affect mankind, but there's no money in it. There's people that have a particular disease, SIDS, sudden infant death. Nobody wants to spend any money on that because so few kids die of SIDS. So the entire family of coronaviruses has sat untended to because it never did anything to man. The SARS outbreak 4, 5, 6 years ago, it came and went, didn't it? It didn't kill lots of people. But the reason we have this vaccine is there's no money in it. But for the last however many years, the medical community has been in their spare time poking around with the coronavirus. So several years worth of dinking with the coronavirus got them to, for lack of a better word, a genomal cause, which allows you to come up with a genomal cure. And they were, they had made 3/4 of the journey over the last few years, just poking around. The second part is the US government literally threw billions of dollars at it. So all the work that had been done since SARS first hit over here, coupled with billions of dollars, is what's gotten us across the finish line. Had the first SARS outbreak several years ago not hit, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Hey, Michael, this is Tom Source. Hi, it's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm fascinated by the mRNA process. I read a book about a year ago that talked about that approach to developing treatments in the future because it's at a genetic mitochondrial level.
Yep.
And so is there, in your interactions with the hospital, is anybody discussing that as a future process for
other things?
Yeah.
For lots of other things.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about that.
Well, cancer, the big thing is cancer.
Yep.
Because both the Pfizer and the Moderna are the mRNA based, and it basically goes in and tells the cell structure what to do.
Yeah, it's turning the switch on and off at a DNA level. It's amazing. Correct. Yeah, it's amazing.
And right now there's teams of people that you don't hear about working on this as a cancer thing, because if they can find the genomal cause of a particular cancer and then put in whatever it is they need to put in via the mRNA process, then it will teach healthy cells to knock away cancer.
That's right. That replicates with the new switch position. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you for that. I'm just fascinated by it. I think it's an amazing breakthrough for us.
And we're actually doing that at the medical center in the Cancer Institute. We've got that parallel, but you're the first person that's ever brought that up.
Well, I suffer from an autoimmune disorder, and so I mean, cell T therapy is where I'm falling in. I mean, it's the same sort of similar format as cell T.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of potential uses for this this methodology.
So, Michael, that you mentioned the 2 doses about what did you say, 28 days apart or something?
8 days apart.
Right. So, what's the status of the individual that got the first shot and hasn't had the second shot yet? Are they susceptible to the virus at that point?
They're still legally or medically considered at risk, and in fact, they're working on this, but the threshold to being considered not at risk is somewhere between 7 and 28 days after the second shot, yet to be determined.
There you go. There we go.
Now, I know they have a data set we haven't seen. We know that. We know they know, but again, they don't want to say that yet.
And what about? I've heard that this virus mutated to different strains. I think they call it. Are these vaccines covering all the strains that have been available so far?
Thus far, the one thing does all. And again, if you go back to the pandemic of 1918, and you can Google this, the doctors up till today say it's not a matter. We never did anything about the flu of 1918. It finally mutated to a non-lethal form. And they've been waiting since 1919 for it to mutate back to the 1918 form. And what they say in the medical world is it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, that the influenza mutates back to that 1918 form and again becomes horrific. But again, this mRNA sequencing, you can theoretically marry a lot of things to that and send it in, into the cell level, into the DNA level, and teach a cell or teach your DNA to accept or to not accept a large number of things.
It's really it's amazing. And now one of the things that I've noticed that is like Qantas now is they said that as soon as the vaccine becomes on the market, they're going to make it mandatory for you to fly on their planes to take the vaccine. Now, we all think that if one airline does it, they're all going to expand on that. I think that's going to be very influential in getting that vaccine more widely, taken by people, right? You think that too?
Yeah, I've had that conversation with a whole lot of folks like you on this phone call. One of the biggest production managers in our business was talking to me, and we were going down that road, and he said, if my ginormous band goes on the road, I'm going to have to tell everybody they've got to take a vaccine. And he wrapped it up by saying, that's going to be weird because I'm not going to take it because he didn't want to. And he goes, I don't know how I can tell them they need to when I don't, but if the band says you have to, and I didn't say it, but I thought, well, then how would you be there if the band said you have to take it?
Right. And by the way, why would somebody refuse to take the vaccine? What's the basis on which they refuse?
There's a lot of people out there that there's two sets. Some people that just don't want to take a vaccine, and I respect that. But then there's another set that wants to wait a while and wait and see what happens.
And then you have the anti-vaxxers, the conspiracy people and all that. Michael, Paul Wallace here in Austin, question, will they be able to test to see if you've got the vaccine?
To see if you've got it.
Will there be tests to see if you've taken the vaccine? I mean, how will they know if you've taken it?
At that moment, yeah. You all probably saw that Ticketmaster thing, and then Ticketmaster had to walk it back. Here's the skinny on that. There are 4 partners in any system like that. One partner is the medical provider, medical provider, be it AstraZeneca or whoever it may be. The other partner would be the high-tech platform, be it Twitter, Facebook, whoever that would be. Ticketmaster would be a partner in that, or some ticketing company, because they would want to be a partner, and then a promoter, wouldn't there? So from my opinion, it would be an AEG Live Nation combination, because that's 80% of the market. But here's what's going on behind the scenes now. All those entities are jockeying let's go form this company and slay the business. So let's assume for a minute you've got Live Nation and AEG together with Pfizer, together with Ticketmaster, together with then the other guys go, no, we've got, for those of you in lighting, years ago there was AMX, BMX, CMX, DMX. I mean, there was a lot of control protocols. We eventually settled on DMX, but we had years and years of fighting, and I'd say audio was probably the same way about signal processing. And that's what's going on right now. I know that, again, because all these various people are working with us at the hospital to gain information to become a partner. And for Ticketmaster, what's their play in it, or any ticketing company? Well, their play is that service fee, isn't it? Because that wouldn't be a paper ticket, that'd be an electronic ticket, and they want to put $5 on there.
Hey, Michael, I thought about this last night, which is there's the HIPAA issue with medical privacy. And so there's three categories where that can be waived. One of them is when there's a public good, like a pandemic.
Greater good. Yeah.
A greater good. So I thought about it, I thought, okay, well, how would disclosure, because it's a private medical disclosure, how would that take place unless it's a nationally mandated HIPAA exclusion?
I think you're going to see, because of we're a federalist system and a democracy. I think, my opinion, I don't think we'll ever get there where it's mandated. I think there's far too many people that would object to it. I'm not taking sides on the issue.
I'm talking about the disclosure, not the vaccination.
I am too. Let's look at where we are now, right now. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Thomas, but I can't discuss with any of my employees the fact that another employee has or doesn't have COVID.
That's correct.
They can guess.
That's exactly right.
They can guess when Bob's gone for 14 days that Bob may have had COVID. But I can't discuss that. So right now, HIPAA is under COVID. What is being discussed for all these solutions is that when you sign up for it, you agree to have your information revealed, to the team that's creating this. Now, having said that, and this involves venture capital firms like Thomas Lee and other huge venture capital firms, they're trying to get positions in these companies. And I've talked to some people at 2 different venture capital firms. They got real interested a month ago, but now they're going, what if we get involved and put all this big money into these solutions? And I don't know if any of you remember, in 1983 or 84, FedEx rolled out a thing called Zap Mail. Does anybody remember Zap Mail? They would send a guy out to your office and you'd hand him a contract, and then he disappeared. And 2 hours later, your contract was in New York or Detroit or wherever.
Right.
And we all went, wow, that's cool. Well, it nearly bankrupted them, because a year later, we all got the same thing they had, which was a fax machine. They had spent $380 million buying fax machines when nobody knew what they were. And they put type 1 fax machines everywhere. Well, they never begun to recoup the cost on Zap Mail. It nearly bankrupted FedEx. And I know Fred Smith. I've talked to him about it. So this is a bit like, from one point of view, it's a bit like Zap Mail. Does anybody want to go put all that money into this solution? And what if June, July, August, September, you don't need it?
Right.
And right now, there's a lot of foot dragging.
Michael, did you say 100 million doses had been distributed nationwide? Is that what you said?
Of the various ones, not of any one brand.
Right.
Yeah.
Primarily,
but it really doesn't matter.
Pfizer.
As long as it really doesn't matter what brand it is, as long as you're getting a vaccine that works.
Is the total number of vaccines 800 million? What's the total number of vaccines that are going to be produced in total?
All 4 companies have committed to 100 million for the U.S. next year, so that's 400 million. But they up that every day because they're making it at warp speed. I hate to use that term.
Now, wasn't AstraZeneca, they figured out if they gave you a half a dose, that at first, then that way they would have more doses for people? Didn't they say that?
I've not heard that.
All right, one of the brands.
It was Jan. It was AstraZeneca. They did tests, and it was That's what I heard anyway.
It was AstraZeneca, but it wasn't so much about getting more doses out. That's kind of a side benefit. They figured out that if they give,
It was a triggering mechanism, the half dose.
if they gave people half doses, the value of the vaccine was still as good, but the side effects were minimized. So they realized that they could have it. And for the majority of the population, I think, if I recall reading it right, for the elderly, they were still going to recommend the full dosage. But for anyone younger, no symptoms, generally good health, they figured they could go to half and keep those people from developing the side effects. And oh, by the way, now we can treat twice as many of the younger folks.
And then they get a full dose on the second round. It's a full dose.
The dosing is a work in process, but you think about it, to get mid-May to get to 70% herd immunity means pretty much everybody's gotten inoculated, or
Amazing.
a great number.
Yeah.
Well, 50 to 60% is the gold standard for herd immunity.
The AstraZeneca thing is the second dose made the efficacy go from 74 to over 90%.
Correct.
When the first dose was a half, the second dose was much more. It worked much better.
Full dose.
That was what they really explained it as when I heard it.
Now, Michael, from the tests that are going on in the hospital, in Tennessee hospital like that, so I saw an article about not the overall residual effect, but the immediate effect when you get a shot in your arm. Is that causing fever? Is that causing anything immediately, or is
Fever. Some people
there any
experience
effect
fever,
from getting the vaccine?
fever, sore arm, and in some cases a slight headache, all very temporary and all dissipates very quickly.
Okay.
And that's been our experience here, and we're told that's been the experience across the spectrum.
Now, Michael, we had Marty Hom on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about instant testing at the venues. And I know
He's
that right
involved in
now
the endeavor.
United Airlines is doing instant
Yeah.
testing. How is
He's involved
have
in
you
that.
gotten any information on how that's going to interface with the vaccine?
That's one of the plays that I'm talking about. Marty's involved with that, and it's a firm out of the UK, and Marty and I have talked several times about it. And again, that's, does it come to fruition? It's a 30-second test with a 30-second result. And but if you do the math, you've got 20,000 people coming into an arena. That's 10,000 minutes. Now, again, you've got how many gates? The point is, it would necessitate people coming to an arena extraordinarily early, unless you opened up 100 gates. I mean, it's a pure math thing. You can work it out.
Right. Well, one of the things that I did read was that before you could even go to the arena, you have to submit the fact that you did take a test, you came out negative, and then you could go in. Then you can go down to the concert venue and then take the test there as well, the instant test. But they won't allow anybody to go to the arena that hasn't already been pre-tested before they got there. Did you hear that?
I've heard both. Marty didn't mention that to me. And right now, and I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but we've got a T90 level of work, and it's what you all would have. It's the video shoots, and everything's for TV, isn't it? And I've noticed that when we send a crew of 4 down, in total there's 50 people on that shoot, and 20 of the 50 people take a quick test, and it's positive, and they make them wait a little bit, an hour, and then they do it again, and it's negative. Well, when they get the first positive, on most sets, you have to then have 2 negatives thereafter to prove the first one was a false positive. And in one case, a show we had yesterday in Atlanta, they had to have 3 negatives, and the guy cleared. And what has begun to emerge to me is these companies that are on site doing this are getting paid $150 a test. So it's kind of in their interest to sprinkle in a few false positives, because if one false positive then drives 2 or 3 more tests. Think about it, and they're $150 a test. So
Well, we've heard those rumors forever because they say that if they would find a cure for cancer, it would ruin a complete industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
So we've heard that, we've heard that throughout our whole lives that happens. But then again, you've got polio, and they did cure polio, and you couldn't go to school until you had a polio injection, to prevent that, a vaccine to
Yeah.
prevent polio.
And Jan, to what you were saying about airlines and what Thomas was saying about privacy rights, this is where it'll probably get really interesting. The US government will say, hey, the vaccine's free. To secure your reservation to get the vaccine, please download this app. This app will also serve as your proof that you got the vaccine, or that you're in the process of getting the vaccine if you're getting the 2-shot version. And then a bunch of companies, private industry, will come forward and say, hey, if you can prove you've gotten the vaccine, you can fly on our airline. You can eat in our restaurant. You can attend our concert. You can come into our state with no quarantine. So that's where this kind of combination of big tech, government interests, the greater good, and then good old-fashioned wanting to get the hell out of my house because I've been here for 10 months is all going to coincide, and the privacy rights will be gone. I'll voluntarily give them up so I can go out to dinner and catch a show because I haven't been able to do that in a year.
Yeah,
Well,
the businesses has every right to say you must have a shot in order to participate in our business. They have every right to do that.
Absolutely. They can refuse service for any reason whatsoever, and they don't even have to tell you the reason if they don't want to.
So, but you have every right to not participate. And again, to your point, Mike, when you accept those apps, you don't ever actually read all that garbage that comes with the app, but you give them the right to go in your phone and look at your pictures and your database and your contacts. And if you didn't know that, you do. So when you sign up for Facebook or Twitter, they've got everything in your telephone. So I find that to be
we would hope that wouldn't be quite the case, but that was the whole thing with TikTok, is that the reason they wanted to ban it is because they were able to grab everything off your clipboard that was on, the last thing was on your clipboard. But in reality, Apple sandboxes everything. So for example, if you look at this, there is an app that I carry called the COVID Trace, and it was put out by the state of Nevada. And if I go anywhere that somebody else has already been is carrying this app and it's in the system that they had COVID, this would come off. But basically this is worthless because if you've got COVID, you're not putting it in an app for whatever reason.
If I got COVID, I'm deleting the app.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael, there's two kinds of people now in the country. There's people who've had COVID, and there's people who have not had COVID. So where do they stand in the pecking order of vaccinations?
People that have had COVID are at the bottom of the list.
Bottom of the list.
In the state of Tennessee, anyway. I'm told the other states. This is state by state. I'm told
Why
the
is
other
that?
states.
Why are they at the bottom of the list?
Because they've had COVID and theoretically have an immunity. There's exceptions. If you're at risk, if you're over 65, and if you have comorbidities, and if you have lung issues, or you're morbidly obese or diabetic, any of those triggers, then yes, that moves you right back up the list. But if you're 28 years old and you've had COVID, when they get down to the 28 years olds, you would be a lower priority. Now the hope is they produce this stuff so fast that it doesn't matter. And there is a theory that they're going to roll all of this out, and demand will not, supply will far outstrip demand. That they'll be going, wow, we got a lot of this stuff left.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
not if it's because no one takes it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I would.
So I saw an interview with Bill Gates where Bill Gates said very clearly, he said, for the coronavirus, we only need 75% of the population to take the vaccine. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's the 70% herd immunity thing.
So I guess maybe you could explain this to me. If I take the vaccine and then I'm out in the public and I'm doing somewhat, I'm wearing a mask. Let's say I don't, let's say I'm not that big on social distancing at the time. Doesn't that protect me from getting it?
Yes, but one thing they haven't figured out yet, and this is really down in the trenches, they're 95% certain that it'll keep you from catching COVID. They don't quite know yet, and this is going to take 2 or 3 months, whether you can still transmit it. In other words, you could be a carrier. There's a set of people that have HIV, but it never becomes AIDS. What's his name? The basketball player, Magic Johnson. He has HIV, but he doesn't have AIDS because he's a carrier, but he doesn't actually have AIDS. So they don't quite know yet whether or not you'll be transmissive when you are inoculated, and they're working on that now.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good point.
Which could be why we might still be masked up in May and June.
Yeah, right now the challenge here in the state of Nevada right now is we're like almost 17%. Michael? What's the word I'm looking for?
Positivity rate. So out of all the people being tested right now, roughly 17% are testing positive for COVID-19.
So that basically is 1 in 6 people. 1 in 6 people. So you have to be super careful out there. And the problem that I see, and maybe you could tell me where I'm wrong here, but there are a lot of people that say, well, it's only 1% death rate. Well, that death rate now is going to be 300,000 shortly, and the cases are well over 12 million. But the reality, what it's doing, and most people don't die from this, they just get sick. But the challenge seems to me is that we're overwhelming our hospital system, so that if somebody has a heart attack or someone needs some surgery, they're not going to be able to get the surgery because the hospitals are being filled up with COVID patients.
Well, that's not at all the case. Again, I can speak with great authority on this. Most people don't realize that all hospitals go, it's like a hotel. You want to be 100% full. You don't want an empty hospital bed. University of Tennessee Medical Center for years operates at 101% capacity. So today we have 52 COVID patients today. We're at 100% capacity. We've got 700 beds, so 650 people are there for other reasons. And if we need more beds for COVID, yeah, we just sort of take one less appendectomy. But no hospital system that I'm aware of in the United States is anywhere near overwhelmed. And the media has done a great job of scaring people by saying that all the hospitals in Texas are full. Well, guess what? All the hospitals in Tennessee are full too, with appendectomies and car wrecks and pregnancies and they kind of twist the data, and I don't know why. But when you go to the emergency room, you have to wait. You know why you're waiting? Because there's no beds. That's why. And they're getting somebody out so they can get you into a bed. So we're not at that point with COVID. I think I shared with you a long time ago. The medical community believed back in April and May that as many as 100 to 150 million people were already infected. They just didn't know it because 85% of them are asymptomatic. I personally believe I had it in January or February because I went through what I thought was the flu, and I powered through it, and I came to work. And all I've got to do is go have the antibody antigen test, and it'll tell me. But again, I don't want to go insert myself into that line of people just so I'll know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It makes absolutely perfect sense.
But I think we're going to discover eventually that indeed between November and March, it spread like wildfire, and we just didn't know it.
Yeah, I know for sure it was in Oklahoma in early January, because somebody went there and came back to Vegas and brought it with him. And that's already been confirmed medically.
Yep.
I had heard that it started spreading at CES, that somebody brought it there from CES. And because there were so many people from all over the world, that was a super spreader event.
Who knows?
Yeah, nobody really knows right now. So let me ask you, let me play devil's advocate here, because there are people here that say, okay, well, businesses are closed. That's not a good thing. I'm willing to take the chance. I'm going out, only 1% die. I'm ready to go out there. Why do I care? I mean, and so my answer has always been, well, that's because of the hospital workers and the first responders. But based on what you're saying, that's not the case. So what is the case? Is why should we all be aware, or why should we take precautionary measures? Why should we do that if only 1% is dying? And why are we putting so much energy and effort into this when people, I guess how many people die in car accidents, or people die from cancer or heart attacks or whatever? What is it that makes this different from all other diseases?
There is now very little transmission within a hospital because they've got the protocols down, just a minuscule amount, an even smaller amount within schools. So there's been a lot of fear injected because this was an election year. Had this not been an election year, I don't think it would have been handled quite the same way. So we're overcoming a whole lot of fear. But for this group of people, again, let's go back where we started. Until this thing is licked, we're the only people out of work. Now the restaurants and the gyms and the hair salons are affected in a come and go fashion. But for me to want this cleared, it's so we can have big crowds and have live events. And I do think once you get beyond January the 20th, as I told you in one of my emails, it dissipated the day after the election, and we had 4 good days where nothing was politicized. Then all of a sudden, Georgia became up in the air, and the president refused to concede. And all of a sudden, the political winds started blowing again. And I think those political winds are going to blow certainly until after the January 5th Georgia election, and probably until either the president concedes or the inauguration on January 20th. After that, all the political stuff's clearly in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned earlier about that we need to be writing our congressmen and our senators in our own districts, in our own
Correct.
states. And is there going to be a form thing that you're working on that right now with
I'm
like
working
NAM?
I'm working with NAM, and I'm going to work with Stephanie at Extend PUA and get both of them to do this particular letter, and then just direct everybody to both those sites. And then if everybody every day goes to the site and just clicks, boom, it goes through. Boom, it goes through. And much simpler than my cut and paste stuff.
Yeah. Having said that, right now, the Australian Arts Restart Program, they've raised now in Australia the venue capacity to 75%, and their government has given them 60 million of a rescue package. And I read that, I believe, in the Times, and we're going to place that. We're going to place that link in the chat. So if you guys want to see what they're doing in Australia, so they're actually starting. They're actually starting to move ahead with doing sporting events and concerts down there. So
Yeah,
it's possible that we'll follow suit.
For those of you that know Jake Berry, he called me. He was in Singapore for 2 months doing some gaming show in a soccer stadium. He called me 3 times from Singapore, and then he called me from LA on the way back. And he said that they haven't had a case of COVID in Singapore since last June.
Yeah.
Which was incredible. Now, those folks, as you know, mask up anyway. I mean, they've been masking in China for years, for social reasons and for health reasons. And the air is bad. If you've ever been to Beijing, the air is just terrible normally. But he said, no, he said he took with him a team of 200 Westerners. It was the Jake Berry mob. And he said the Chinese were very leery of those folks. And when they landed, they made them stay in a hotel for 14 days and tested them daily before they'd even let them go to work. And they wouldn't even let them go out of the room. The food was delivered to the room. So after the 14 days, they began doing the stadium show, and then it was 2 months in the stadium. But he said there's not a case of COVID in Singapore since June of this year.
Same with Thailand. There's no cases in Thailand. I have lots of friends there. But to get there right now, the restrictions, not only is there a 2-week quarantine at a hotel, but I have to give them an FBI report saying that I'm not a criminal. I've got to show that I have $25,000 in the bank. I've got to have $500,000 worth of COVID insurance. And those are just 3 of the 15 criteria that I have to come up with just to be able to go to Thailand. Plus, I have to buy a ticket in advance. And there's just so many different things that they're asking for, but they don't have any COVID there. And so if you can get over there, you go back to basically a normal life, which everybody in this room and everyone I know wants to go back to.
No, yeah, we absolutely all want to go back to it. We're just, the vast majority of Americans aren't willing to do the things that need to be done to get there.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you also mentioned earlier about Main Street having all of that money. I read that Claire got 65 million out of that.
71.
What? I'm sorry?
71.
71 million. And so how is that not spread around to the rest of us?
Because in order to get a Main Street loan, it basically is a loan. It's a normal loan from your lender. You've got to have a strong balance sheet, a strong P&L, and probably most importantly, an income stream. And Claire has a strong balance sheet. They have a strong income or P&L.
A lot of other assets.
Well, but most importantly, Claire, and I don't know what you call it, you all probably know more than me. Claire's got a phenomenal business doing portable internet and stadiums and whatnot, Wi-Fi distribution. They got into that 3 or 4 years ago, and they do it for car races and sporting events and places where you need a Wi-Fi situation like you would in a football stadium for a pro game. They deliver that portably. They also do installations, and as I'm told, they do a phenomenal business in that, and have, for lack of a better word, pivoted to doing more of it. So that gave them an income stream that justified getting the loan.
Yeah,
I can tell you
money. Just by the way, Chip, go ahead. Chip, you haven't said anything.
I can tell you on the Main Street, we're about 75% of the way through our Main Street. And I mean, I can tell you that the application process is so inordinately complicated that I bet 80% of businesses couldn't even successfully complete the application.
More than that.
Yeah, mortals can't complete this application. We had to pay a CEO and a CPA and a law firm just to fill out the application for us. We've got 10 grand in document prep just to put in the application.
Wow.
And then if your numbers don't stand up, they say no.
Yeah, exactly. But if we get it, it's a game changer for us and we're set.
Yeah, because it's
as long as they don't cancel the program once we get to the 1 yard line.
Good luck in getting to that. Good luck in getting the touchdown. That's
why Restart's so important. Restart's easy peasy. You fill out the paperwork and you get it, and you have no payments year one, interest only year two, and then amortize it year 3 through 7, and you can get up to $12 million. And for a lot of businesses, that $12 million will get them over the hump of next June or July.
Yeah. I mean, I bet Guitar Center wishes they had that kind of money right now, because they just went bankrupt after missing a $45 million interest payment on its debt. And so they went into Chapter 11 and they're struggling to get back. But I'm not so sure.
GC's been planning that bankruptcy for 2 years. Ever since Bain Capital, Mitt Romney's firm, sold them. That's been in the works. And this was just a perfect excuse. It gave them all sorts of leverage they didn't have before.
Yeah, it seems like they have $1.3 billion in debt right now, Guitar Center.
Yeah, they'll come out of it. The estimate right now is they will shed more than $800 million in debt. And that's by before the end of the year, that bankruptcy will be settled and done.
Of course, two other people that are affected by that are Elation and Chavez, because both those folks sell a lot of stuff to the Guitar Center.
Yeah.
Right, but a lot of those creditors probably remember what happened back in the early 2000s when Mars tried to do Chapter 11, and Harman said no, and I think it was Yamaha said no. Mars just said, okay, Chapter 7 then. Have a nice day.
Yeah. On a nice note, there was the EIP, and I don't remember what that stood for, but everybody was able to get $1,200. That program closes on the 21st of November. So if you know anybody that hasn't gotten the $1,200 and wants to get it, they need to file by the 21st, and we'll put the link in the chat as well.
Wait, the 21st of November has already come and gone. Are you sure you don't mean the 31st?
I guess
maybe you mean the 31st?
I just saw the article. I guess it was sitting in my email for a while.
Okay then.
Oops.
I don't think there is a 31.
You're late. You got to go
November,
into. You got to take Doc. You got to take the. The Back to
There
the
you go,
Future time machine, the DeLorean. Get in it.
Perfect.
Get back. Also, another bit of news is that they were going to do the Ninja Athletes Association here, and basically they had to cancel that. They just canceled it. They canceled it a few times and rescheduled it. And now, with what's going on here in Las Vegas, they had to cancel it completely. So that's something that's also it's just there's some. The good news is Australia. There, if we were there, we would have money and we would be able to we'd be able to keep going through it and keep working but I really believe that right now we all got to stick together, and there is some bright sides to here. I mean, one of the things I mentioned it earlier before you came on, Michael, was about your level up thing. Could you tell people about that?
There's an event scheduled in Nashville, December the 16th at the Ryman Auditorium. Eileen Velos from PRG has sort of been heading that up with a team of other great people. And they've got a number of artists, both live and on tape. And they're going to do, I think, a 2.5, 3 hour event that's going to be streamed to raise awareness and to raise money. And that was the thing that was sent out today to get people to do some social media posting and whatnot. And again, this will be an event. It'll raise some money, but more than anything, raise awareness. And it's bringing the artist in to work with the industry to raise the awareness. I do not know who the artists are. I haven't asked Eileen. She hasn't rolled it out yet because they want to get all the contracts signed and the legal stuff done. But she should be revealing the artist they've got any day. And I truly don't know who it is.
Well, it's a good thing. Anything that we could do, the restart, the light up, that when we the live events that we all put the red lights on our building at the time. But the question is how do we get to these senators? Because they're really holding everything up. How do we get to? I mean, how did you get Marsha Blackburn to go on the floor of the Senate and talk about our situation?
I begged for 5 months. I've known her 45 years. She's a friend, as is Lamar. And I just constantly harangued her and begged. And I kept saying, you've got to go speak on the floor. And I tried to get her to do some Zooms, and I tried to get her to more overtly be the guy. But and she spoke about us other places. But the thing about politicians is they carry, they carry 5, 6, 8, 10 bills at a time, and they don't want to be seen preferring one bill over the other.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, question for you right before you came on. Ken Newman was talking a little bit about restaurants and the attention that they're getting at the moment. And he had a theory that it was partly because live entertainment to a lot of people sounds like a leisure activity. It's not a necessity like eating is. But I also wonder, is it just because the restaurant industry is better organized? They have better lobbyists. They have more voices on the floor.
3 things, and I've said this before, Mike. Number 1, they understand restaurants. They don't understand us. Number 2, restaurants have tremendous lobby. And number 3, restaurants have PACs. I have had multiple senators and House members tell me, you do not give me any money. You are in the back of the line. And that's why holistically, if you remember, I've been talking about us getting together a ginormous organization like the airline organization and let all these other little organizations sit under it, but have that, let's call it the Live Event Association, have it sit up under NAM. And then when we need something, NAM will lobby on our behalf because they are respected on the Hill. Whatever you think of it, the NAM name means something. No other name in our industry really means anything. So, but that's a year-long play, Mike. We've got to all come together and get together and agree that we're going to let this umbrella organization that perhaps sits under NAM be our lobbying arm. And then we've got to go to work and set up a PAC. And what that means is people like me are going to have to write checks and put money into a PAC. So we've got a war chest so that the next time something happens, we're covered. But if you think about it, it's not just sound and lights and buses and trucks and all of that. You're moving into manufacturers. You know, you're moving into instrument manufacturers, and I mean, it's a bunch of folks and venues and managers and agents and artists. So I think we can, within a year, build a pretty sizable organization and get some PAC money, but it'll just sit there dormant until we need something.
Well,
and one thing
to your point, you mentioned NAM, I think, in the very first time you joined us. You mentioned joining NAM, and I went ahead and did, and then I reached out to you and you connected me with some folks from NAM. And they reached out to me, and I was a little surprised because we set up a Zoom, and there were 8 of them on the call wanting to ask me questions about my particular, piece of the pie. Like, how does the install industry work? Who are the types of people we should be talking to? How much money do you think is in that industry? How many people work in that industry? How much weight does it have? They were asking a lot of very pointed questions about how do we leverage those numbers. We were on a good hour and a half, and they couldn't stop asking questions. I finally had to cut the meeting short. I had somewhere to be, but so I would encourage everyone else, please join NAM, make your voice known, and let's grow that lobbying / PAC effort.
I put that ball down months ago because the building of NAM, I don't have the time to do that, but I've got a team of people already put together to do that. It's been put together for 3 months now. And once we get beyond the relief part, then we're going to move into building that NAM community. I talk to Joe Lamont, the head of NAM, every 2 weeks at least, and I email with him every 3 days, as well as other members of the team. So I'm in constant communication with NAM, and they're doing things on our behalf that you all don't know about. But we'll begin building that, February or March, and that's when I'll be reaching out to a whole host of people and explaining why we need to do it and what it needs to look like. But that's a long-term build. And in between now and the NAM build is something that I've not mentioned. I think I put it out in an email, but the liability issue is the next big rock, because until the two sides come together, the Democrats want zero liability protection and the Republicans want complete liability protection. So that's the next big rock, but I'm not going to confuse that with funding, because right now it would do us no good to lose money and go out of business because we were busy arguing about liability. So we're going to argue about money and then
arguing about liability for events that aren't even happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
there's another organization. We had Nancy Schaefer on 2 weeks ago, I believe, or maybe last week. Time flies. And the Live Events Coalition is what she calls it. And she has a survey.
I talk to Nancy 3 times a week.
Right. And she's got a survey for the industry that she wants people to fill out. And so we're going to throw that in the chat. We're going to throw that link in the chat as well. And also, one of the things that Nancy told me when I spoke with her on Friday is that her coalition is now offering health insurance to our industry and at a very discounted rate. So if you're interested in, if you need health insurance, or somebody that needs health insurance that's in our industry, that's a good opportunity. And that link will also be in the chat. So those are some good things. Anyway, anybody else have any questions for Michael?
Well, Michael, it's Ken Newman. I wonder about the numbers that you and others have presented to our government leaders as in terms of our industry and how many people and how many companies and all that. I've heard some people criticize the use of exaggerations of numbers of people and companies that are being affected by the lack of work for the event industry, and they're very vocal about their criticism, saying that we shouldn't be exaggerating. How can we say there's 12 million people working in the event industry? There's not 12 million people working in the event industry. So my question to you is, what do you say to people like that criticize you for exaggerating or supposedly exaggerating numbers?
Number one, no one's criticized me to my face, but the numbers all come from the United States Government Bureau of Economic Analysis, and I will send you after this the numbers. I have it broken down by state. I also have it, the US as a whole. That's where the $877 billion came from. What people don't understand is the live event industry goes in so many directions. It touches museums, it touches orchestras, it touches, let me get my list here. To bore you, theater, Broadway, off-Broadway, off-Broadway, regional theater, LORT, touring, community theater, education, independent, stand-up comedy, ballet, dance, ballet, jazz, modern, hip-hop, step, tap, Celtic, touring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Opera, all of the versions of opera, music, which we know, rock and roll, touring and all that, production services, which we know, corporate trade shows, corporate meetings, political rallies, convention, keynote speakers, TED Talks, et cetera, live television, game shows, talk shows, news, sports, events, recorded TV, movies and radio, which is Hollywood and whatnot, fairs, county fairs, state fairs, rodeos, stock shows, 4-H shows, et cetera, themed attractions, amusement parks, haunted houses, corn mazes, family fun centers, escape rooms, experiences, museums of all natures, types and sorts, venues of all nature, types and sorts, and finally business services, including management firms, booking agencies, promoters, business managers, labor services, and all types of other industries. That is the $877 billion. And most people can't imagine how much is rock and roll touring? 38 billion. Now, which number are you going to use?
And so you're trying to make a statement and make these government leaders listen. So you have to use big numbers, right? And so the 12 million, the figure of 12 million people being affected, as in 12 million people 100% out of work or without income since March. Is that a factual number, or is that just an estimate?
That's in the BEA report as well.
Good to know. Thanks.
Well, the challenge, it seems to me, basically what you've said is that, you need to have money and you need to have lobbying power. And I don't know if NAM is really set up like that yet, because I don't really know. You're saying it is, but it would seem to me, and what I'm reading right now, is that manufacturers that make instruments for the home are doing really well right now. They are not hurting at all whatsoever, because people are at home and they're taking up hobbies and they're playing guitar and they're playing piano and they're whatever other instruments they have, and we're not unionized like the automobile workers or the housekeeping here in Las Vegas, that big union, the SUI, the teachers unions. So we really are at a disadvantage in that respect. But I don't think that our industry is ready to be unionized, because I see what happened with IATSE, how the musicians union, how they've lost so much power over the years. How do you figure that we can get more influential and when we reach our congressmen and senators?
So can I step in here, Jan? Because
yeah, sure.
I have and Michael might know this or know where I'm heading with this, but I have a rare disease. And there's less than 40,000 people in the United States have my rare disease. When I go to my senator and talk to him about a rare disease legislation, getting money put aside and stuff for that, when I tell him my rare disease, he says, well, how many people have it in the state of North Carolina? Well, less than 800 people in North Carolina. Well, I can't deal with you. But I belong to a group called the Rare Disease Legislative Action Group, which takes 17,000 rare diseases and puts us all under one umbrella. Now, when I go in to ask him for legislation or money or to support a certain bill, I can tell him 1 out of every 10 constituents has a rare disease. So now I've got 10% of his population. Now he's listening to me. So when we pull this 12 million together under this whole great big, if we're just talking about audio companies and audio producers, they're not going to listen to us. There's not enough people there. But if we pull the full 12 million under the hat and under the umbrella, and then go to him and say, well, now I got to start paying attention because now I got a bunch of people not working. So,
and to your point, Brian, you all will get this next week. I'm glad you asked him, but you'll get this. You can't see it, but you'll get this next week. it's just a numbers game, and that's why I'm beginning to send out to these senators the economic impact on their state. I think I shared with you earlier. I just sent a bunch of people in Texas the impact there. Out of that 877 billion, 238 billion comes out of Texas, California, New York, Texas. Oddly, Illinois is huge. Tennessee's only 14.2 billion. And I would have thought with Nashville it would have been much larger, but showing the politicians the economic impact, and to your point, Brian, the numbers, it's just a numbers game. And so for us, the 12 million people extends in a lot of directions, but you've got to realize the museums are shut too. All these weird things that I read to you on the list, they're shut because they have to have a crowd. And what can happen ultimately is whatever this umbrella organization is called, we're going to have the AES tucked up under it, and the Screen Actors Guild, who I talk to weekly, and the Directors Guild, and the Producers Guild, and the Broadway League, and the International Association of Venue Managers, and NEDA, and NEVA, and all these organizations are going to be tucked up under, and they're all going to continue to work their mission and do their thing and be who they are. But when we have a crisis like this, if we've got the lobbying firm and we've got the PAC, boom, they can go to work. But it shouldn't
Michael,
change.
what are you going to do? Michael, what are you going to do with all your free time when this thing ends? Because you have spent so much time on this. You're gonna have more free time than anybody else in the whole entire
Restore his
planet.
business.
What are you going to do with that free time, man?
This will take till the end of next year.
So Michael, what is your feeling that with the vaccines and the availability and progress, do you think we'll see 4th of July started to see some events happen next year, before or after, or what's your gut on that?
Funny you mentioned that, because the pyro people are in my group, and a lot of them have become very good friends, especially Stephen Vitale. And they're 75% of their income is 4th of July. But to answer your question, Live Nation on their financial call 2 weeks ago stated they anticipate being at full volume in June. And I don't think they would put out in a financial call that if they didn't believe it. Now, they're also a client of mine, and we do a lot of work with them directly on installations. And that's what we're hearing from them, is full guns in June. Now, that's not profitable. And I've got contracts starting in March, and that doesn't mean they won't be moved. But I believe we'll be I think we as an industry will be at a sustainable volume in June. Now, that doesn't mean wildly profitable, but enough to pay your rent and your electric bill and your employees. And do I think we'll be wildly profitable? Probably not until 2022. But I think at this point in time, we'd all be happy to be able to pay our overheads and our employees. And I think we'll get there. What the other piece of this, there's so many pieces. Nobody will have any CapEx money. So the manufacturers are going to be 6 months behind us, because none of us are going to want to go buy any new speakers or microphones or mixing consoles or lights, or you're just not going to want to. You're going to want to work within your inventory, except for Ken Porter, because he's got billions of dollars, but but no one's going to want to. So again, I talk to the manufacturers quite regularly, and they're on a 6 month lag behind us.
Yeah. Well, just an FYI, Ken Porter doesn't have as much money as you think, because he has donated a lot of money to the Jan Landy Retirement Fund. I want to let you know, I wanted to thank him publicly for all those investments in the retirement plan of Jan Landy. Thank you, Ken. Just wanted to say that, Hey, Tim's in the room. Tim does a lot of work with the unions and stuff like that. How do you see yourself interfacing with Michael in regarding to supporting what we're doing and getting these congressmen and senators, on the case here?
Good question. I just joined the meeting really, really late. I've only been here about 5 minutes, but personally, I'm behind any effort that gets the Congress critters off their whatever it is they're doing now, and gets us some temporary assistance here, because I do agree that, entertainment's going to come back. It's never really gone completely away. It's just, turned into other forms right now. We've got a lot of streaming, but live events are coming back. The big challenge for the shop I manage is whether or not we'll survive until that happens, until there's actually a net positive cash flow at the very, very least. On the labor side, the big issue that we're going to have has less to do with managing the aspects of working in a disease environment, as it is going to be finding labor. In my local, we had to dig down to the bottom of our C list to fill a 24-man call for a parking lot show. That's out of a referral system that normally has 300 people in it. So I'm sure part of it was some people were not aware that they could work and still claim their unemployment, some other things. But right now, the big problem we're seeing is our workers that are going to be taking retirement rather than go back. We've had people that have already moved or had to find other types of employment, and because now they have a much better benefit package, aren't coming back to being a stagehand or a theatrical technician. And I expect, actually, my guess is that you're going to see a net loss of experienced people somewhere in the 20 to 30% range. So all I can say is for people like Mr. Strickland and other vendors, have your shit packed up right and have good people with it, because the hands you're going to get are not going to be what they were 2 years ago.
Tim, to your point, it's estimated that somewhere between 10 and 20% of the folks in our industry have already gone elsewhere with no intention of coming back, because they've gone and gotten a decent job at an Amazon center. That they might have made $100,000 a year in our business, but they've gone to Amazon for 75 with health insurance. So we're already seeing that. And indeed, today we put up a picture on one of my company's social media things. I put up the picture to do with Level Up, and I do go read posts and whatnot because I want to see what people are saying. And two people said, one of them just said it real directly, to hell with this industry, I'm out of here. I'm getting a real job.
Oh, that's where I am personally. I am 4 years from full retirement. Actually, 3 years and 8 months from full retirement.
But who's counting?
I feel like a prisoner. I'm marking these things off the calendar. And of course, 2020 for me, like a lot of us, was going to be a pretty good year. And I've been managing to sock away some money into retirement. Well, what the government's helped me out with has not been enough to replace my wages, let alone what I would normally have put away for my old age, which is rapidly approaching here. And so if I told people this months ago, if I actually have to leave this industry, if I have to find another job, I'm not coming back either. I'm taking my 40 years and playing ball somewhere else, just because there's no incentive to remain. And when the people most likely to hire me directly are the people most impacted by the not working through almost a year, probably by the time we're back up and moving here. The middle section of this industry is what's going to collapse. Claire Brothers is still buying eighth day, so there's still some money and credit out there. And there are people that are 1 and 2 man shops that don't rely on what they make to sustain their households and families. And so they've set out and done nothing. At those ends of the curve, everything, can kind of come back. For everybody in the middle, it's just going to be this giant sucking sound. And I feel for anybody that's got equipment that's pledged as collateral right now, because the factors are coming in January and they're going to reevaluate your collateral. So, these are still not healthy times. And I suspect that for some vendors, that the sucking chest wound is still going to be too much. We haven't seen the fallout completely. And I think you're absolutely right, Michael, about manufacturers being 6 months to maybe even 2 years behind us. I know in my shop, if we started coming back in the first quarter, the console purchases and other things we were strongly considering for 2020 won't happen for at least 2 years, where it's simply not going to be practical. And that may mean we have to rearrange our priorities on what kind of clients we take on, what kind of work we do, because, my boss is older than me, and we're looking for an exit strategy here. And taking on new debt and buying capital equipment when we could have yet another wave of a pandemic doesn't seem like a smart way to get people to buy your company. So, that's kind of my take on it. Thanks, Jan.
Tim, quick question for you, Tim. if you're in the union, don't you have a pension to look forward to? And wouldn't the pension, the looking forward to the pension, keep you as a member of that union?
No. That's the quick answer.
Interesting.
Union benefits are negotiated individually with each employer. So if you're a member of Local 1 working on Broadway, you've got a pretty good package. On the other hand, my local just negotiated a contract with SMG that finally gets a 3% contribution to retirement, to the International Annuity Fund. And the good news about that is that workers who make shit money and don't work nearly enough hours in my geographic area will now be able to self-contribute some of their hard-earned money back into their pension plan, into their annuity. But until employer contributions make at least 3% contribution, employees can't self-contribute. So the quick answer is no. There's no cushion there. That's not automatic.
Interesting. So you don't have a pension to look forward to speak of. Nothing that would keep you working in this business.
Fuck no.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. But Tim, I agree with everything you said except one thing. You said you wouldn't want to reinvest and make the financial moves in case there's another pandemic. I would leave off in case there's another pandemic. I have spoken to a number of owners that are 60 and over. They're saying just what you said. Hey, I'm 62. I think I'm just going to cash it in, because why do I want to spend another $2, $3, $4, $5 million that I'm going to have to borrow to get my company through next year, to then be a year older, and then I'll never recoup it, and it's time to retire. And I'm hearing that a lot. I mean, a lot from big companies.
If I had somebody who would write me a check for 30% of book value of my boss's assets, I'd hand him the keys and the check and say, retire now.
Exactly.
That's exactly where it's at.
Well, you know Morris, right? You know Morris, and I mean, look, he just sold his building. Ken Porter was told me that, and now look where they are. They have the ability to stay in business if they want, but they're not, because
they folded. Dale's 85 years old, and Kenny Chesney didn't work this year, and he announced he's not working next year, and Dale just decided, 2 years of no income, it's time to retire.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that or not, Ken, but
he basically said he's tired of bleeding. He's trying to stop the bleeding. And then when Chesney comes back, if they want to do it again, they'll start back up if they want to.
But that'll be May 2022.
And then you got a guy like Marvin Simon, who has Deep South Audio, and he's mowing lawns right now. I mean, but it's not really lawns; it's lawns for power stations. He's making more money now than he's ever made in his life mowing public access ways under power lines, and yet he wants to come back to work, because most of the people that came into this business, and I would say everyone in this room, came in it not because they had to, because they want to. And most of us, if not all of us, are really sharp human beings. We could think, we could reason things out, and we figure out how to do things. So we are very valuable outside of our industry as well as inside of our industry. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, if you want people that know how to solve problems, you get us. If you want people who will go charging head in no matter what, you call the Marines. We have valuable skills individually and in our corporate endeavors. There's no question about that, Janet. The question is whether or not I hate the word pivot. It's whether or not people and companies can do something else on a reasonably temporary basis and then go back to what they were doing. And I think the issue with pivoting is that you don't swing back. Once you pivot, you're probably not, it's not a boomerang. It's not coming back. If I found a job that paid me what I made in production with a good benefit package, I probably would never come back. I don't even care what it's doing. I've only got to do it 4 years.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I don't want to be Debbie Downer about that, because I strongly believe in live events. If I were 10 years younger and had some money, I would have bought a chunk of stuff at one of the recent auctions. When I saw what some of it went for, I wished I could have put it on a credit card, because, live events are going to come back. We're social people. It's a matter of when the talent is ready to do it, when promoters are ready to come up with reasonable insurance and financial requirements that encumber others. And Live Nation, I'm looking at you. And then, I mean, because there's segments of the audiences that are plenty ready to come back. You know, we saw what happened in Sturgis. They'll show up. On the other hand, I've got a friend in Seattle that says, you know, I'll go back to work in the industry when I can go to a Seattle Symphony concert without a mask. So, you know, you have those two extremes. I think there's work out there. I think that, you know, the sooner we can get a pandemic under a reasonable amount of control, the sooner we all will be working. It's a question of how many of us can make it and how many of us can remain in the industry when that happens. And I'm hopeful. I see 3 vaccines. There's better treatment coming. There's a lot of reasons to be positive about the mid and long term. What's still not very positive, and I know Michael and others have worked tirelessly on this, is try to get some midterm relief. And for those people who have been able to move into installs and do streaming and find other ways to service their existing or new clients, man, you guys rock. And I'm proud of every one of you. Unfortunately, that's not a possibility for some of us. And, you know, and I'm in part of that group. So I'm not going to sit here and have a pity party. I think you all have done a great job. And I hope you all continue to succeed. But I'm still afraid that for a big chunk of contractors and providers out there, it's still the bloodbath is yet to really happen. And like I say, I'm just hoping that we can all hold out and, you know what, instead of winding up 6 feet under in the business, we wind up with a little bloodletting and, you know, can still go on. But, you know, and right now, like I say, long term, I feel very hopeful for that. Near term, I'm looking at a positive testing rate in my community of 27%. You know, 3 weeks ago, I was laughing at Wisconsin for that. Now I'm not laughing. And Jan, you know, my boss, he's in the hospital currently with his second COVID infection.
Second?
He's not on a ventilator yet. Yeah, second. He first got it in June and had flu-like symptoms. And now his wife and his mom are also in the hospital. Wow. So, you know, that's why I'm in no hurry to run back into the burning house, as Steve Edelman keeps saying.
And I think, Tim, you've kind of highlighted, and Michael can probably speak to this a little bit. One of the challenges is there is a lot of reasons to be hopeful and perhaps even a bit positive. Looks like by end of the year 4 vaccines. There's 2 treatments coming that both seem to have some promise for those who do get it, being able to be treated and being able to walk away from it relatively unscathed. And then again, there's also this group of people that either A, don't believe in COVID, or 2, don't care, or 3, they're young and therefore they're bulletproof, that if all of a sudden we did have events, they would be overwhelmed with people wanting to go to a concert or a fight or a game or whatever the case may be. And I suspect, and this is Michael, I'm kind of wondering if you've heard any of this, that's kind of the fine line that public health officials and government people have to walk. Like, yeah, there's reason to be hopeful, but if we relax too soon, we will dash that hope.
You move squarely into the legislative arena, and you know only God knows where that's going to end up. I mean nothing by that other than as we move forward in time. Technically, I don't know if you all know this. I went to law school. I'm not a lawyer, but I went to law school. Technically, the only way that the government can seize control of your civil rights is to declare martial law, technically. So to tell people to stay at home, you've got to first declare martial law. Well, that's never been done in this COVID situation. Would they do that? I don't know. That gives the federal government control over all your civil rights and can tell you what to do and when to do it. You know, I don't think we're going to get there, but you've seen through the last 9 months, mayors and governors have gone unchallenged with edicts and orders. And for the most part, we've tended to abide by them. But I'm not going to begin to try to guess what the future looks like because it's just a guess.
Yeah, well, I guess if, you know, as Marty, Kenny, you were quoting Marty Harm. What did Marty Harm say the other day?
If anybody tells you they know when we're going to get back to work, they're lying.
Yep. You know, so that's about the size of it. And, you know, if anybody would know what's going on, I mean, his finger's on the pulse. I mean, he's with the biggest band in the world. And, you know, so he would know what was, you know, and, you know, he's on the cutting edge of what's going on. So But I would tell you that, it's been very, very rough for all of us, every one of us for this year. But the reality is this is Thanksgiving, and we do have things to be thankful for. And I'm very thankful for Michael and all of the work that you've done, Michael Strickland, to assist all of us peons, I guess, it's to say the least, in
Mere mortals.
what you've done, and you're unrelentless, and you're just your amazing ability to coordinate so much for our industry and for everybody. So I want to thank you for that. I'm very thankful for that. And I'm sure, Michael, you have things that you are thankful for as well. And so, I mean, I'd love to go around the room right now to see what people have to be thankful for. And so whoever wants to go first, Ken Newman, why don't you start? What do you
I
got to be thankful?
apologize. I've got to dive out. I'm 10 minutes late to my next Zoom.
Oh, well,
all right, Michael. Let's hear. What are you thankful for, Michael?
Tell us what Michael. Give us one thing you're
I'm
thankful
for all the great people in the live event industry, because they're the ones making this happen.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. I'm sure everybody appreciates everything that you've done. I know that I have, and it's so good to see you again. And thank you for everything. And be safe, be healthy, and have a very happy and a healthy Thanksgiving. And when you leave this room, you can be sure we'll all be talking about you. Okay?
Thank you all, and have a great Thanksgiving.
Great
Bye-bye.
presentation, Ken.
Thanks.
Michael, great presentation.
All right, thanks. So anyway, Ken Newman, tell me something you got to be thankful for.
I'm thankful for money. Money is a great fucking tool, man. No, I'm sorry, that's a private joke. But no, I'm thankful that I'm healthy and I'm not feeling suicidal like a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are really down in the dumps, and it's really hurting them mentally. This whole COVID thing, and I feel like I'm not feeling that bad mentally. So I'm thankful that that's the case with me. And I'm thankful for my girlfriend that I live with, and people around me that are supporting me, and people call me on the phone to make sure I'm okay. There's a lot to be thankful for, even though things are fucked up.
Yeah, well, that's good. Mike Brown, you're next on because I'm looking at the people on my view. So Mike Brown, tell me, what do you have to be thankful for this year?
I actually was thinking about this earlier today. And yes, our business is down at this point about 85%. That's probably looks like where we'll end up for the year, about 85% down. But I'm healthy. I haven't missed any meals. My daughter's healthy. The mortgage is paid. And I got a little bit of money in the bank still. So, all in all, I'm better off than probably 99% of the people in the world.
Yeah, the Viome thing is looking really good on you, by the way.
Yep. Viome did its part, and I'm slowly losing weight. Was never my goal, but I'm just happy that I'm sleeping better. And then as a side effect, I'm losing weight, which I don't totally understand, but that's okay.
Good. Paul Wallace, what do you have to be thankful for?
Well, the rental
other
business
than I've let you in the group. Other than that, what else?
Well, I'm very thankful for that, Jan, of course. But the rental business is good. I got got some land out in the country. My condo's paid for. I've got trailers and RVs and a big house that I've got cut up into rooms that I'm renting. So that's a steady income. And I got a great wife who cooks all the time. I go swimming every day, and mostly I'm just healthy, and I haven't gotten sick with COVID. I'm very thankful for that. And I've gone from 230 pounds down to 204, but I have a feeling tomorrow I'm going to put on a pound or two.
Ah, that's good. And so Ken Porter, you're next.
Should we organize a search party, help him find all the weight he's lost? Trying to give you new material, Jan.
Thank you. Yeah, because he lost his wallet when he was in London. That's why he lost all those pounds, right? But seriously, what do you have to be thankful for? You must have some things to be thankful for.
Well, just that all the daughters are coming over tomorrow and cooking for me, and we're all fine.
Well, that's
Carrying
good.
on, figuring out what to do next.
Tom?
I wake up typically early in the morning, about 5 or 6, and I meditate. But this morning I was thinking about just prior to COVID-19 hitting, we had a dinner party over at Dave Dansky's with 4 couples, and it's my turn next to sponsor or to hold the dinner party at my house. And this morning I was thinking, I think I'll be able to book that dinner party this coming June or July. And so I'm feeling pretty thankful and grateful that all of those individuals are alive and that I'll probably see them in June or July of this year. And I'm grateful to have them as my friends.
Well, thank you. Brian?
I'm muted here. I'm thankful that I wake up every morning and can get going again, and was thinking back, and for those that don't know, I'm jumping back into this full time from working in the real world for a long time. So I'm doing the opposite of what you're doing, Tim. I'm diving in instead of diving out. But I made a decision on February 28th that send my notice in and quit the corporate world. And driving back from my parents' house on March 1, I decided I'll wait until I get a couple other financial things put in place. And that was when the NBA shut down. And so I still had a paycheck, although be it not a full paycheck all summer long, but I still had a paycheck coming in while I'm buying other gear and sending too much money in Jan's direction, contributing to his retirement fund. But it's been a good year. This has been a group of people to be hanging out with and finding, and I just enjoy the conversation every Wednesday evening.
Thanks. Steve?
All right. Health. I'm still healthy, and I'm so glad that I still have a fishing camp to retire to with all the storms we had this year. And, I've got my granddaughter, as y'all probably saw earlier, as I was having my technical difficulties trying to get my audio going.
Fortunately, you're a lighting guy. We won't hold it harm. We'll hold you harmless on that.
Yeah.
And you've got a great hat collection.
Oh, that's just part of it. But other than that, health, having family around, and I'm doing the cooking. So we'll be eating real well tomorrow.
That's good. Are you going to have gumbo? What are you making?
Actually, melatonin and shrimp.
He's from Louisiana, by the way. He's from New Orleans, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, that, and I make a spinach and artichoke dip too. So those are what I'm making. We've got the turkey and ham through the Honey Bake Ham Company. They save the hardest thing.
Very nice. Tim, tell us what you're thankful for.
Pardon me while I look surprised here. Hey, I'm absolutely thankful that all of my problems are first world problems. There are two kinds of problems you can have: the kind that can be fixed with money and the kind you can't. May all your problems be the first kind.
Very nice. Thank you. Chris?
Oh, I'm thankful that I'm employed in November of 2020. Managed to make it through. Thankful for my wife, who puts up with me being at home, where last year I was gone 3 weeks out of the month. She's been putting up with me every day out of the month. And thankful that I've kept my health, kept my health through all this. I've got a 20-year-old daughter that lives at home that may or may not take all the precautions, and we've managed to stay healthy through all of it. So I'm thankful.
I'm happy that you're here. Sean?
Hey, Jan. The gentleman that just said, have the problems that money can solve. I am lucky. Most of my challenges this year have been financial. I was fortunate to be in a good place getting into this year. So I'm going to survive. I walk my kids to school every morning. They're 4. Their school is open. I am home for dinner every night. Sarah and I were talking about the fact that if COVID hadn't hit, I probably would have been gone half the year on gigs and missed the most important years of my kids' lives. While we've been on the phone call, I put this little Christmas tree up. So this entire phone call, I've been putting this tree together and enjoying the conversation, but I'm trying to get in the holiday spirits. There are years that I don't ever even put a Christmas tree up because I'm too busy, and it's not even Thanksgiving yet. And well, there it is. And to Tom, I went to a 50th birthday party over the weekend in Catalina. 20 people all COVID tested and stayed in different accommodations. But on Saturday night, a friend of mine was raving about this amazing book he had picked up called Lifespan. And I literally pulled it out of my backpack because I bought it after you told us to get the book. And I literally held it up. You mean this book? And it was pretty funny because most of the people had never heard of it. And it was cool. So Tom, thank you for that tip.
You're welcome. And that's where the research for mRNA development came from.
Cool. Yeah, he said you look at age like a disease, and you can cure it, so to speak. So that's cool. And hey, you guys, I haven't made all the meetings, but meeting once a week and just talking about this stuff, it really it's humbling. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. The reason I was in my car earlier was I just started trying therapy, and of course we're recording this on anyone could watch this, but I almost told the guy today, I said, I've gotten more out of the Wednesday 3 o'clock calls than I'm getting out of your 2 o'clock Wednesdays, and he's $220. That's not cheap. And I was like, I'd rather hang out with these guys at 3 than you at 2.
Send you at 25, you can keep the tending.
Yeah. So I'm going to owe you guys some money. I'll be sending all of you Venmo $10 each today for the therapy.
Well, thanks. Just put it to that Jan Lane, the retirement fund.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys.
Gabe, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm thankful to have the luxury to be able to stay home and spend time with my family and not have to resort to leaving my industry, and be thankful. I'm certainly thankful to my clients who are keeping me busy right now, and it's more than most people have. So yeah, I guess it's that sort of thing. It's a lot to be thankful for me. Yep.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being here. Thank you.
Yeah, I know I don't often chime in. I sort of put this, I dial in most weeks, and it's really nice to associate with all of you. I don't often have the ability to chime in. There's usually a 2-year-old toddler running around, or I'm on another conference call in one ear or something like that. But it's certainly great to associate with you all.
Well, I do my best to bring some lightness into everybody's life during this really dark time. To look at it from a different perspective of where, see the comedy in it, see the bright side. And I'm so thankful that you guys have supported me. Otherwise, I would be in the room alone, probably just me and Kenny, just chatting alone, So I really do appreciate that. But I do have a lot to be thankful for. I mean, I've got a pretty good career for a guy that dropped out of high school. Well, I didn't drop out of high school. I was pushed out. I was pushed out of high school, hardly got to college. I spent 5 years at 15 different colleges, and all I got was W's on my scorecard there, withdrawals. I'm enjoying what I do. I still have an opportunity to make a little bit of money, not the kind of money I'm used to making, but nonetheless, I have an opportunity to assist people that I really like, because now if I don't like you, I won't work with you. And that's all there is to it. Period. Today some guy called me and he says, well, I'd like to, and I just got a bad vibe. I said, you should try eBay. I think eBay is just right where you want to be. You don't want to be with us, eBay, it's $100, you'd be saving a lot of money going on eBay, so that's basically the story. I'm sticking to it, and I'm thankful that I still have my health, and that I have a lot of experiences, and have a lot of good friends and acquaintances. And that's a lot to be thankful for. And I'm also thankful that I'm not going to be eating a Swanson TV dinner tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to be eating, but it ain't going to be Swanson, that's for sure. Not that there's anything wrong with Swanson TV dinners, except for the salt. But other than that, That's all right. That's all right. Well, anyway, I want to thank you all for coming. Remember, if you like what we're doing, click the like button, share it with your friends. And now, for those people that are watching on YouTube and Facebook, I'm going to say goodbye. You're going to miss the best part of what's going on, and before what you've seen. If you were only here before we went live, you would be here. That's for sure. So 73, 6-2 and even. Make sure that you have a really happy and a healthy and a safe holiday. And one more thing I'll say is you make it happen. So share the